In the year 2000, a lawyer sent a letter demanding that one single photograph be deleted from the internet. It was not a photo of a crime, or a scandal, or anything illegal. It was a picture of a house, taken from an airplane, as part of a project studying beach erosion along the California coast. Before that letter existed, almost nobody had ever seen the photo. After that letter existed, hundreds of thousands of people went looking for it. The lawyer had just guaranteed the exact thing he was trying to prevent, and he had no idea he was about to become the textbook example of a phenomenon that didn't even have a name yet. The house belonged to Barbra Streisand. A researcher named Kenneth Edelman had spent years photographing the entire California coastline from a small plane, documenting erosion for a public database anyone could access. Streisand's Malibu home appeared in the set, one image among more than 12,000. It wasn't targeted, it wasn't a paparazzi shot, it was a piece of environmental data that happened to include her roof. Her legal team sued Edelman and the website hosting the photos for $50 million, arguing it violated her privacy. Before the lawsuit, that specific photograph had been downloaded exactly 6 times. 2 of those downloads were her own lawyers checking what they were suing over. Once news of the lawsuit spread, curiosity did what curiosity always does. Within a month, the same image had been viewed by hundreds of thousands of people. The case was eventually thrown out. She had to pay the website's legal fees, and the photo that almost nobody would have ever noticed became one of the most viewed images of her home in history, entirely because she tried to make it disappear. 5 years later, a writer named Mike Masnick was covering a different case, a company trying to scrub an unflattering internal memo off the internet, and the same pattern repeated. He needed a name for it, and the closest example he could think of was Streisand's failed lawsuit. He called it the Streisand Effect, and the phrase stuck immediately, because everyone who had watched the internet had already seen this happen without knowing what to call it. Here is what's actually going on underneath it, and it isn't really about the internet at all. In 1966, a psychologist named Jack Brem ran a series of experiments on something he called psychological reactance. The setup was simple. Give people a choice between 2 nearly identical objects, and their preference is usually mild. Sometimes they don't care at all. Then, take one of those options away. Restrict it. Forbid it. Tell them they can't have it. And something strange happens. The forbidden option becomes dramatically more desirable. Not because it actually improved, but because their freedom to choose it was threatened. Humans do not experience a restriction as neutral information. They experience it as an attack on their autonomy, and the brain's first instinct is to fight back by wanting the restricted thing even more than before. This is not a quirk. It's wired in early. Toddlers told they cannot touch a toy will often want that exact toy more than any other object in the room, even if they showed no interest in it moments earlier. The forbidden thing gains value the second it becomes forbidden, and the desire has almost nothing to do with the thing itself. Now, scale that instinct up to an entire population with internet access and add one more ingredient. Information no longer has to be smuggled from person to person. It can be copied infinitely, instantly, for free. In the physical world, suppression sometimes actually works. Burn the only copy of a document and it may genuinely be gone. Online, there is no only copy. The moment a piece of content exists, it can be duplicated 1,000 times before anyone even tries to stop it. So when someone attempts to erase it, they aren't extinguishing a flame. They're throwing gasoline on identical flames already spreading in 100 other directions. There's also a second mechanism running alongside reactance, and it's even simpler. An attempt to suppress information is itself information. If you did not know something existed, and then a powerful person or company spends time, money, and lawyers trying to make you not see it, you immediately learn something new, that whatever it is must matter. Nobody hires an attorney to hide something boring. The act of censorship functions as a giant red arrow pointing directly at the thing being censored, screaming that it's worth looking at. Governments have run into this at national scale more times than most people realize. Court-ordered gag orders in the UK, known as super injunctions, were designed to prevent newspapers from even reporting that a legal case existed. Several of the people they were protecting had their identities spread across social media within days anyway, discussed openly in countries where the injunction had no legal power at all. The gag order didn't contain the story. It just guaranteed the story would be framed as a secret worth uncovering. Companies fall into this trap constantly, usually while trying to protect their reputation. A firm discovers a critical review or a leaked internal document, and instead of ignoring it, they send a takedown notice or a cease and desist letter. People notice the legal threat faster than they notice the original content. And now the story isn't just the criticism, it's the criticism plus a company that tried to bully it into silence. A far worse headline than the first one ever was. Here's the part almost nobody accounts for going in. The backlash from a failed suppression attempt tends to be permanent in a way the original content never would have been. Left alone, most unflattering photos, memos, or reviews fade out of public attention within days or weeks. Nobody keeps thinking about that one aerial photo of a coastline. But once it becomes the case study, the meme, the example people cite for the next 20 years, it stops fading. Streisand's lawsuit is still being discussed on the internet decades later, cited in psychology classes and media law textbooks, immortalized specifically because of the lawsuit, not despite it. None of this means suppression never works. It works constantly, quietly, in cases the public never hears about, because those are, by definition, the successes. If a company manages a legal threat calmly and privately before anyone notices, there's no story, no backlash, no effect named after them. The failures are the only ones that become famous, which creates a strange survivorship bias. We only see the attempts that backfired, so it looks like they always do, when really they backfire specifically when the attempt itself becomes bigger news than the thing it was trying to hide. So the real lesson isn't never try to protect your privacy. It's about scale and timing. A quiet request, handled early, before an audience exists, usually just works. A public legal threat aimed at something already gaining traction guarantees an audience that didn't exist a day before. There's a strange kind of mirror here, too, one that has nothing to do with lawsuits. Think about the last time someone told you not to look at your phone during a conversation, or not to check a certain notification, or that you absolutely should not open a particular message right now. Did the urge get smaller, or did it get sharper? Think about the last diet that told you one specific food was completely off limits. Did you think about that food less, or did it become the only thing your brain would quietly circle back to for the rest of the day? The instinct that turned one aerial photograph into a historical case study is the exact same instinct running quietly through your own head every single day, just at a much smaller volume. You are not immune to this because you understand it intellectually. Understanding reactance doesn't remove it. It just gives you a name for the itch. The next time you feel a sudden pull towards something, specifically because you were told you couldn't have it, or shouldn't see it, or weren't allowed to know, pause for 1 second and ask whether you actually want the thing, or whether you just want the freedom back that got taken from you. Sometimes those are the same. Often they aren't, and the only real defense against wanting something purely because it was forbidden is noticing in that exact moment that forbidden and valuable were never actually the same word.